Traurigkeit in deinem Blick. Ich möchte wieder nachts um 3 mit dir Filterkaffee trinken. Manchmal möchte ich mit dir nur da sitzen und dem knacksenden Radio zuhören, während der nächtliche Nebel in den Straßen hängt.
Turns is a concert and performance series for the ZKM Kubus. Turns stands for a turn in or a shift in your reality of how you perceive sound. For every session, we let 2 or more perspectives on sound collide, clash, and mesh. And within this thematic angle, we look at eco and exo, so ecologies and maybe also dimensions that are so tiny, microscopic that we don't have access to it with our ears.
More radical. I consider the girl as something that is there. It represents the future. Ruling by this child, your hope.
Anders Krieg ist, kaufen Menschen im Westen ein Haus, ein Auto, schalten das Licht an, schlafen am Abend im Bett, fahren mit dem Zug, die Psychopharmaka wirken, irgendwie.
Developing this project or my art practice since now almost 10 years. And it started really as music practice, although I was studying art. But I started writing music and performing first, trying to actually build the space that I want to speak through.
Mother, what is your name?
Girl.
Oh, girl. Listen, I have taught a lot about the girl. Your name is an allegory. Some think the girl is something yet to come.
The way I work is autofictional as well, right? So the main character of the opera is Girl, who is played by me. And there's another character, the mother, who is manic old woman, and who is also deemed to be mad. And the whole opera is set in a kind of dystopian present. So there's a fictional element to that, but it's not so fictional also, I would say. And this character, Girl, grows up in a world, early 21st century, where we already know about the destruction of the planet. We already know about the climate change. We basically live through it, in some places more than in others. The way the project relates to eco-anxiety is more that we need to figure out new ways of subjectivizing in general to form a different kind of society, which is based on really being in touch with difficult feelings and also complex, difficult constellations of people and the world.
My practice is more focused on electronic music. Although my background is in composition, I started with composing for acoustic instruments and ensembles, and then also larger ensemble. One of the instruments that I'm gonna play tonight, it's a Prophet synthesizer, which is tuned to a microtonal scale. So I'm basically using other scales. For this project, Symptom, I worked with different concepts, and one of them, as you said, is connected to psychoanalysis. I start with that, and then I talk a little bit about what is my approach to time. So basically, Lacan, in one of his later works, I think it's Seminar 23, he talks about fourth knots. So basically, in his system, there are three main knots, and human psyche is based on these three knots, and the knots are called imaginary, symbolic, and real. And I can very short say what are these three things. So the symbolic is basically connected to the structure of language, social structures, basically how we perceive, how our perception to the other and to the world is shaped basically in this symbolic. The other one is imaginary, and that's how we perceive ourselves. So how we see ourselves, our image of ourselves, and our ego is basically in this image that we have from ourselves, is in this imaginary. And the last one is real, which is a bit harder to define. Basically, our deepest desires and anxiety and fears are in this third knot. And he was working with this system of psyche and defining a lot of things. And later on, when he was, for example, analyzing Joyce's work, he came to a fourth knot, which is called symptom, and it's kind of written similar to symptom, but it has this big difference. One of the main difference to symptom is that symptom is something that can be analyzed and can be healed, and symptom is basically what brings these three parts, right, to make it more abstract and bring it to the music. Because I very much work with entanglement, and I wanted to find that element or that bigger thing that makes all these elements not to fall apart, and to connect them and to make them all having their space. And these elements that I'm talking about is, for example, how to bring elements from different music cultures together, how to bring different scales from music cultures together, how to bring sounds with different qualities together, how to bring different elements in music, like rhythm, texture, timbre, whatever, together, but without any hierarchy, or how to bring present, past, and future all entangled in each other. So symptom, in a way, tries to keep all these elements together without falling apart. And I decided to choose a piece of a poem by Khayyam, a quite old Iranian poet. Fights are never open, how past is not closed, how it resonated also with this time that we are living in. And that's crazy, because I think it's been written 700 years ago, and it's very touching to see that some struggles have been given to generations. And I think it's better not to translate it, because, also with poem, it's hard to translate them and then becomes like very superficial. But I feel like I try to bring that emotions also if you don't understand the words, but you can have your own imagination or interpretation what's going on in the lyrics.
wolf sounds were way broader than what I expected to begin with in the project. Like I wasn't aware of the range of sounds that the wolf can make. And so immediately then when I'm given this archive with like hundreds of recordings, I put upon myself to like make an archive that I could work with, basically like a database that I know, okay, weird sounds, long sounds, solo sounds, duet sounds, choir sounds. And so, that was a big challenge, because how do you categorize sounds you didn't know before? It can sound like laughter, or like the classic howl that everybody, when they think of wolves and how they sound like. They also kind of sound like weird dogs sometimes. And so they have a lot of that, but then extra to that is that suddenly there's a personal relationship, right? Which to me becomes kind of the most important thing of this whole process. Not just for me, but like I present a piece as well, and I'm sure like some people can identify the same howl, even if it's in different places in the room, because it has this spatial quality. But so there's a emotional relationship to it, which to me art is kind of about that. This work, which is called Quando os Lobos Uivam, based on the book of Aquilino Ribeiro. The book talks about this politics between like rural farmers in Portugal and the fascist regime, and how there was a big moment of tension when the state started to reivindicate ownerless land and turn it into state land or state-owned land, and how that influenced all the ecosystems, because they started to monetize the land with planting trees and creating like the paper industry and resin industry and a lot of industrialized reality in the interior of Portugal, which was very rural. And so it's based around this idea of this dynamic between the rural and the industrial. So as well, like the wolves live somewhere in the middle here in the Portuguese ecosystem, because they have been pushed around because of these man-made changes through the different regions, because they used to live across the whole country, and now they're mostly like based in the upper part of the country in the north, around more the Jerez National Park, with the border with Spain. And so that is a big change, right? Like human influenced change.